You are listening to Exploring Sacred with your host, Denise Iwana Francisco, on the Temple Within Radio and Digital Media Network, giving voice to the sacred.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a brand new day, an opportunity to begin again, and greetings from here in the Enchanted Forest in West Michigan. It's an absolutely beautiful morning. I woke up to a sight out in the forest of about a half a dozen deer bedded down in the trees, just all hunkered down and enjoying the warmth of the snow and, the energy of the enchanted forest. It's a great way to begin the day, knowing that the critters out there feel safe and loved. And that's really about what today's show is about: feeling safe, feeling loved, moving forward in love, and lightening the load in order for that to happen. Good morning, Janet Smith. Oh, it's good to see you over there in our beautiful UK, the United Kingdom, one of my favorite places on the planet, of course. The land of magic and mystery, and just really talk about an enchanted place. There it is. So good morning, everybody, and today we're talking about lightening the load. How do we love ourselves and continue to love others and at the same time lighten the doggone load? Because there's one thing about this human journey for certain, is that there are times when we feel absolutely burdened, bedraggled, and weighed down by the accumulation of life. And right now in the Northern Hemisphere, we are enjoying a glorious full moon, and it's the snow moon. Hihane washte chetan we, Catherine Harrison. Hihane washte chetan we, Lady Hawk. Good morning. Lightening the load really is a lot easier when we're working in tandem with the seasons. Good morning, Carla Jo. When we're working with the seasons of our life, when we're working with the seasons of Grandmother Earth and Grandfather Sky. And this beautiful snow moon here in the Northern Hemisphere really is all about making choices, conscious choices, being awake and aware to the choices that we are going to make and what those choices will bring to us. For the past few days, I've really been thinking about this show and the number of times that I say to myself, or my friends will say, man, I've just got to lighten the load. I've got to put something down. I've got to end this relationship. I've got to end this job because I know that there is something new for me. I can feel it. I can feel it. Good morning, Sonia. I'm glad that you made it. Thank you for being here. The full moon is an opportunity to take a look, to sit with ourselves, right? To sit with ourselves and really take a hearty, good look at where our life is, maybe where it's been, and where we would like it to go. And where we would like it to go. And as much as I really do agree with the idea that our thoughts attract things, and it's great to have vision boards and to vision, I think all of those things are magnificent. But we also have to make movement toward those goals. We need to make movement toward those goals. And this is where lightening the load can be tricky. What do I mean by lightening the load? When we take a look at our life and we think, oh my goodness, how did I even get here? Why am I so tired? Why am I absolutely worn out emotionally or spiritually? Or maybe I've become too weighted in the matters of the world and the drama of the world, and I've not paid attention to my soul. I've not paid attention to my spirit. I need to lighten the load of some of the burdens of the world and the drama of the world in order that I can balance those scales. and spend more time with my spirit. Sometimes in lightening the load, that means that we have to lighten our job load. Sometimes it means we have to lighten our family load, family responsibilities load. Sometimes we have to unburden ourselves from the drama that we find ourselves ensconced in. In other words, it's about setting healthy boundaries for ourselves. It's a wonderful idea that when we love ourselves, we really truly love ourselves, and we believe in ourselves, and we want to nourish ourselves, standing in who we are, standing up for who we are, and walking in that in a good way is going to ruffle some feathers. It's going to ruffle some feathers. But the great news is that in standing with our boundaries and standing with our integrity, oftentimes we inspire others to do the same. Because frankly, there's a whole lot of nonsense that goes on in our lives, isn't there? And particularly for those of us that tend to be spiritual in our walk, women, we tend to think that it's our job to take care of everybody's stuff, to take care of their drama, to take care of their heart burdens, to take care of all of everyone else's concerns until there's literally nothing left for us except for exhaustion, mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical exhaustion. This snow moon that we're riding the tide with right now gives us the opportunity to say, where in my life can I lighten the load? Do I need to lighten the load by not being on Twitter as much, or Facebook as much, or Instagram as much? Can I lighten the load by, Janet is saying, she lightened her load when she took semi-retirement a year ago. If you have the opportunity to do something such as that, is that a way to lighten the load? And I'm curious, Janet, in lightening the load, have you discovered that perhaps other things tried to fill those spaces that have now been vacated? Or have you been able to maintain having more free time with that beautiful little four-legged of yours? I'm curious about that. Good morning, Nikki. Yes, frayed and fried. Yes. We do. And we do until we can't do any longer. So what's the first step? Well, the first step is sitting down and taking a look at where the exhaustion, where the frayed and the fried is coming from. And really making a list, pardon me, the allergies this morning, making a list of those things that we can easily let go of. And making a list of those things that perhaps might be a little more challenging to let go of. The social clubs, right? The weekly canasta game at the ladies' club or whatever it happens to be. Memberships at places that you once felt compelled to be a member of. Letting go of those, because when it comes right down to it, sometimes in lightening the load, we can be talking about our health. We can be talking about life or death. I know a lot of people who have worked themselves to death or have worked themselves out of having a life so that when they're no longer working, they simply die. And which relationships can we lighten the load with, to let go of? Not easy. Janet is saying, yes, I get out in nature with my fur baby and have time to enjoy hobbies. I enjoy work more now, too. It's amazing how that goes. I was having a conversation with a dear friend of mine this weekend, and he said to me, you know, the universe keeps telling me and making it harder for me to stay where I am. It's affecting my health, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And I'm really having to decide how it is that I'm going to unload, unburden, lighten that load. Because there are practicalities in life like life insurance, health insurance, pensions, all of those good kinds of things. I happen to believe that when we ask for help, help arrives. And so he and I had a conversation for, a good hour about how it is that the universe, creator, creation, our guardian angels, guides, allies, and totems will sometimes give us gentle notes, gentle soundings, that it's time to lighten the load. And when we don't pick up on those notes, those subtle hints from the universe, all of a sudden they become much louder. We may find ourselves struck by an illness, having an accident of some sort or another, having clashes in the workplace, in family, in friendships, until the parting is painful. Until the parting is painful. One thing that I've learned in these years that I've been on this planet Earth is that sometimes letting go gently and gradually at the first signs of, right, is the better way to go. It's the easiest way to go, gently, rather than waiting for an absolute calamity to hit. We can begin to feel the tug. We all can. We all have feelings. We're all sensitive beings. We can feel the tug that says, you know what, Sonia is sharing, she's really trying to stay off Facebook. I realize it brings me down more than I already am, and I really need to catch up with work and play with my pups. We can feel that. Maybe we don't need to be on Facebook quite so much, because maybe everything that's shared in the thread that we're receiving is depressing, demoralizing, dramatic, rather than inspiring or uplifting, or just the sharing of. My son recently left Facebook. My daughter recently left Facebook for those very reasons. The drama. Everything on there is bad news, Mom, and people just complaining about everything in their life, including all of their relatives and their problems at work, and who wants to read that? Well, we do share those things on social media, just as we do in our relationships, but it can become overwhelming. And understanding that it is overwhelming, it then is healthy to say, I'm going to lighten the load by giving myself a certain amount of time on Facebook every day, or once a week, or every other day. And the same with Twitter and Instagram. Social media, it's about social. Some of us are not necessarily social butterflies. I happen to be a very quiet person, happen to be a very shy person, if the truth be told. And so I allow myself a certain amount of time on certain days. And I've had to tell people that see the moment that I'm on Facebook, that all of a sudden a flood of messages start, showing up in my message box on Facebook, that if I am there on Facebook, it's because I'm trying to catch up with my friends and my family. I'm not there to take email messages or have long drawn out conversations. And sometimes that doesn't go over very well, but for my own sanity, it's something that I found I've needed to do, because there were days when I would have over 100 messages from people, and people who would get upset seeing that I'm on Facebook and I wasn't answering them immediately. So we have to set boundaries. Gabriel, come here. Come on, that's Jackie. Come on, come here, come on. Gabriel sets boundaries, and when I don't set boundaries, he sets them for me. Janet is saying, my big message was a meltdown about 5 years ago. That's when my spiritual journey really began. And I was introduced to you, Janet, or you, Dana. And I was introduced to you too, Janet. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing. Oh, that reminds me, everybody, speaking of Janet, one of my favorite memories with Janet is being actually in Wales, Portmeirion, Wales. And I got to meet her, and we were talking about the Mystic Angels. We were having a beautiful lunch out on the lanai there. And next Tuesday, I will be doing the Mystic Angels show, and I'm going to be doing it in this format. So if you'd like to have a card drawn for you with a message, come on into the chat room, just like you are this morning at 10 a.m., because I've really kind of missed doing that. And I had to lighten the load for a little bit in not doing that particular show. I just needed to dial back for a moment. Things happening in my life that I needed to give more attention to, rather than adding another stick in the fire, as my friend Linda Griezak says. Rather than put another stick in the fire, I took one out to make room for the new stick. Right? Yeah. Carla Jo is saying, I have unfollowed several people on Facebook to get away from much of the drama. Yes. Lordy. And it's okay to unfollow people. It's okay to unfriend people. It's okay to block people if they're harassing you. And, we all have to remember, don't take it personally. There's something else sometimes going on. That's okay, Janet, because I will still draw a card for you on Tuesdays. Either that or I take a Wednesday, right? One of my Wednesdays, and make it the Mystic Angels, or I add a Tuesday every month. But in either case, Janet, I'm happy to draw a card for you on Tuesday. Sonia is saying, I actually compare myself, or I see how much better everyone else's life or is, how they are happier apparently without me, even though I know only the high points are usually posted. Yes, you want to know what? Here's the thing on Facebook. Most of what we see on Facebook really is a polished version of everybody's life. And that's the truth. I mean, some of you have been here at my home when you've, had the opportunity, or you've traveled with me to see me in my less than finer moments, right? Oh my goodness, I remember opening up the school for an event in the autumn, and I hadn't had time to put my clothes on. And oh my heavens, there I was still in my nightrobe and my nightgown and my hair up in a sloppy bun, and people were arriving at the school. And I thought, well, you know what, here I am. And no, I'm not going to post this photo of me on Facebook. But the look on people's faces were like, holy crap. She's not looking very, very glamorous today. I guess we're getting the real her today. Oh my goodness. And yeah. So, absolutely. And what amazes me sometimes about Gabriel, about that, is that knowing people's personal lives and then seeing what they post on Facebook, sometimes it's the big old eyeball roll, isn't it? I think, well, who are they kidding? Well, they're trying to kid themselves, apparently, and everybody else who's their friend on Facebook. And so there it is. We're not going to post those things on Facebook. I mean, that's human nature not to want to have those kind of things out there. And hold on, everybody, for just a moment. Jackie just arrived, and so it's a little disconcerting to Gabriel. So lightening the load also can include not having to look perfect. I gave up a long time ago on tailored suits. We've talked about that before. And having perfect makeup and perfect hair, I gave up on that stuff, quite a long time ago. I think the gypsy look suits me better, and frankly, it feels more comfortable. It really, really does. And if I could wear my Sweat Lodge dress everywhere, I would. Because that thing is really comfortable, especially now because it's been washed a million times and it's soft, right? Well, I don't go to that extreme. But what I'm saying is sometimes we can lighten the load by feeling like we have to look and be perfect. We don't have to be those things. We choose to be those things. And sometimes it becomes an absolute stressor. Lighten the load. Be comfortable. Be comfortable. Those that love you and know you aren't going to care anyway. Isn't that the truth? Janet's saying, yeah, I'm the same since I retired. Archie can hear Gabriel and is looking for him. Aw, hey Archie. Yeah, and I've missed you too, Catherine, Lady Hawk. So next Tuesday morning, yeah, we're going to do this once a month. But, making room. And what about those people in your life that you have been dragging along like a ball and a chain? And you know what I'm talking about, everybody. You're dragging them along like a ball and a chain because you figure that their life is going to spiral out of control if you're not dragging them along like a ball and a chain. Give them the opportunity to no longer be the ball and chain. Give them an opportunity to walk on their own. Give them the opportunity to make their own decisions, for heaven's sakes. Give them the opportunity to grow up and be a grown-up. That's not easy. Standing back and letting somebody make choices when you know that your choice is better for them, because we tend to think that way, don't we? I do anyhow. Well, if they only would have done what I said, believe me now or believe me later. Well, I've lightened the load, everybody, by saying, wow, so that's the decision they made. Okay, I have to respect that decision. I don't have to like it, but I'm going to respect it. And if everything comes crashing down, well, then I'll be here in that moment. But I'm done making decisions for everybody. And I include this, babysitting adults. I call it babysitting adults. Any of you out there babysit adults in your life? I gave up doing that about 7 years ago. When I left corporate America, when I left the newspaper world, the world of media, I decided I was no longer going to engage in babysitting adults. It wasn't going to happen. And I came quickly to realize how many hours of my day and how much room in my brain and my heart and my emotions were dedicated to babysitting grown adults. Well, that's one way to lighten the load that really feels good. And sometimes we just have to plain lighten the load by extracting ourselves. Carla Jo is saying, sweats and no bra at home. Jeans and an old work shirt out and about. Yep, that's right, baby. Keep it comfy. Babysitting adults, knock it off. You have, stop. There's a reason that it's called babysitting, because it becomes a case of arrested development if we let that go on forever. That's one way we can lighten the load. There are times when we have to nurture and love people and be there for them. I'm not saying that we negate every person in our life because it becomes a little burdensome. Oh no, we love our friends. When our friends reach out, we help them, we nurture them, we make the phone call, we send the text message. That's different. That's different. That's being a nurturing friend, right? And a nurturing family member. Checking in on those that we love. That's another thing entirely. But what about those people that continue to take? Because that's the story of their life, is to take. No. Or yes, we absolutely have the choice to choose. We have the choice to choose. Yeah, babysitting adults, that is right. So, in lightening the load, sometimes we have to lighten the load within our mind. We have to lighten the load, perhaps, of what we were taught as youngsters, what we were taught to believe. Sometimes we have to lighten the load of guilt, right? Feeling guilty for everything. Boy, I remember years ago, thinking to myself, having grown up Catholic, there are layers of sin. If you are a Catholic, there are sins, there are venial sins, there are mortal sins, there are levels and degrees of sin. And that weighs really heavy on a child's mind, doesn't it? And there comes a time when you are an adult, little moments of epiphany, right? Little moments of epiphany, where we say to ourselves, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that that's been on my heart and my mind since I was 7 years old. Well, actually 8 years old, since I was getting ready for my first communion. All of these layers of sin and having to make up something just so I'd have something to tell the priest for my first communion to prepare. Here's the irony, everybody. When you're 8, there really isn't much that you have to tell a priest about, your sins. I had to make something up. So I actually lied in order to have something to say to the priest preparing for First Communion. And I remember standing in that line. We were living on an army base on Oahu, Schofield Army Base. And I remember standing in that line thinking, this is my first communion. I was so scared. I was so scared. And thinking the whole time, I don't really think I have anything to tell, so I'm going to have to make something up. And I did. I made up a lie that I lied. Well, I lied to my mom about, I lied to my mom about walking the dog. I really didn't do it. And I remember then afterwards thinking to myself, now I'm really in trouble because I just lied to a priest about making up a lie, right? So I was given a penance, and I remember kneeling down in the church, saying my prayers, and I said them twice. Because I thought, well, I just lied on top of a lie, so I better say my penance twice. And I did. And you think to yourself later as you get older and you come to realize that priests are people too, and ministers and rabbis and pastors and imams and all of that, medicine people, they're people too, they're human too. And then you think to yourself, and all those years ago I was tortured by. Well, in that moment of epiphany as an adult, it was actually, that happened when our parish priest came out of the closet about being a gay man. I thought to myself, well, I'm about to lighten my load of ever worrying about what my sins are. He's a human too. By golly, there is no special dispensation. And what about the other things we may have been taught as children? I was not raised in a racist household, so that wasn't one of those things. We were told to always, always embrace everybody. Racism, being a racist in my household growing up would get you in big trouble, actually. Wasn't allowed. We weren't allowed to be bigoted and we weren't allowed to be racist. That was a pretty strict rule. But sometimes we can think about what we were taught. Maybe we were taught we were never going to amount to anything. We would never be enough. And eventually we lighten the load about that too, because at some point we become adults. And this is where lightening the load and making something of it really counts. Maybe today, after, we've all been together this morning, we might all just take a moment to really think, where can I lighten the load in my heart and mind of maybe something from the past? I do believe everything happens for a reason. It's not always a good reason, but there's always more to the story. To let it go, to reconcile it, try to come to understand it. Lighten the load of that. Some people call that forgiveness. I call it understanding. Coming to an understanding that I may not ever understand. That's a good one. I may not ever understand. Yeah, that is sad, Janet. She's talking about that's really sad. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I remember when my kids went to First Communion, right, getting ready. I shared that little talk with them. Well, why do we have to tell Father about what we've done? And I said, well, you only tell Father if you did something. And at this age, you've not ever done anything that really is a sin, but I think it's just getting you used to the fact that maybe it eases our burdens when we share where we've missed the mark with other people, right? Sometimes we have really close friends or family who become like the confessional, where we can talk about in a good way. Sometimes we go to therapy for that, right? It's not masked behind a screen with a guy on the other side of it. Keeping it real. That's also lightening the load, is keeping it real. And what about lightening the load of maybe things that we've done in our own past? Maybe there are some things that we've done that we really haven't thought about since we did it because we still can't believe we did it. Maybe this full moon will give us the opportunity to sit with some of the things perhaps that we've done that we're not particularly proud of or happy about within ourselves and say, I don't know what I was thinking at that time. Not justifying it, but having a conversation with ourselves. There's still time always to make amends with ourselves, with our children, with our friends, with our family, to lighten the load that way, to say I'm sorry. To say I'm sorry to our own selves sometimes. I'm sorry that I betrayed you in that way. To your own self. I'm sorry. And sometimes we're not able to do it face to face. The I'm sorries or the apologies to lighten the load. Or sometimes it's just too daunting or overwhelming. So there's this great thing, I call it soul talk. Soul talk. So let's just say that something unpleasant happened between me and somebody 30 years ago. I don't even know where this person is located any longer. Perhaps that person is now on the other side. And I wish to, make amends for it. I need to balance those scales. Well, soul talk is a beautiful thing. How do we do that? Well, we talk to each other's souls. We go into a quiet space, a contemplative space. We go right down into our heart center, right into our heart. And maybe we take a moment to recall that moment with that person or that animal or whatever it happens to be. We go into that experience, we call it up without judgment. And perhaps we say, I'd like to talk to the higher self of. I'd like to talk to the soul self of. And take a moment to feel a connection with the soul self of that person or the higher self of that person. Or maybe you don't want to connect to the soul self of. Maybe you'd rather connect to that person's guardian angel. I'd like to talk to the guardian angel of. It's time for me to reconcile these scales here and to lighten my load. And this is what I'd like to share in this moment. I'm really sorry about what happened in 1969 or 1972. I feel bad about that. And now looking back, this is my experience of it. And I'm hoping that you'll understand why, or looking back, how come? Sometimes just those conversations on those levels actually work better because our humanness, our drama, isn't involved. I'd like to talk to the guardian angel of. I'd like to talk to the higher self of, whatever you're comfortable with. Lighten the load of those things. And it's not about negating it, because all of it accumulates in who we become. It all becomes us. And some of it is becoming and some of it isn't. What are we going to do about that? We do have options. If the job that you're working at is killing you, you don't have to allow it to kill you. There are options. There are options. If relationships are killing you, there are options. And sometimes they are not overnight options. Sometimes they are a progression. And Janet is saying, yeah, remembering we are just human. We're here having a human experience. And sometimes in our humanness, it is amazing what we can carry for decades, for years, for months, for weeks, for hours. It's amazing who we can carry, what we ensconce ourselves in for fear of what others will think. For fear of what others will think. I really believe that those that love us know who we are anyway, and when we become us, like the Velveteen Rabbit, when we become us, those that love us say, aha, there you are. There you are. It's an interesting thing, and I bring this up every week with all of you probably because I know most of you, is that the beauty of my life is that my biological family members have reached out through the ethers to find me. Nothing I ever expected would happen in this lifetime, and it's a joyful thing for me. And when I sit back and I think about my life and 56 years of my life, Who I've become and what I've become is who I am becoming still. And when I think about the progression, the letting goes, the deaths without dying, the near deaths, the welcoming of the new, how it's brought me to this place of having room for, understanding for, compassion for, and all the while still maintaining, I believe, who I came here to be. Not that everyone understands that or is supposed to understand that. That's between me and Creator. Really, in becoming who we are and all we are intended to be, who we decided, and what we decided to shine here on the earth plane, means letting go. It means taking the fork in the road. It means taking the road less traveled. Sometimes it means taking the 40 days out in the desert, as they say. It means welcoming family that isn't necessarily blood, but is family. My tribe, my clan, thank you for all for being part of my clan, my tribe, is vast. And what a blessing. And understanding, had I not been given up for adoption 56 years ago and readopted, 52 years ago, I would not have an extended tribe. I would not have an extended clan that is my family. My family is growing. What a blessing to be able at this age to look back and look at it that way. Not only look at it, but walk with it and understand it to be that way. To know that those deer that were bedded down in the enchanted forest this morning, they're my family. They are part of my extended Tioshpaye. What a blessing. In letting go of preconceived notions of what family is, we can lighten the load of unburdening of ourselves to what is the definition of a family. Because there are a lot of burdens that people bear because of what they were taught the definition of family is. I remember as a young child, I was given a baby doll. And I had a stuffed animal. I still, in fact, have this stuffed animal. It's in my cedar chest. And it's the stuffed animal that my birth mother apparently sent with me to wherever I was going to go. And I still have that yellow dog with black ears tucked away. I saw it just the other day, rummaging through some things. But I remember my dad saying to me one Christmas morning when I received this baby doll, he talked to me about family. I was just a little girl. And that family is who we make it. Family who comes into our lives and loves us. Our quirks, our faults, right? Sometimes people have said to me, I'm a little eccentric, our eccentricities, our challenges, our highs, our lows. And I remember as a little girl thinking, I wonder why my dad is telling me this. And clearly it stuck with me 50 years later. And he said, like this baby doll, this baby doll is like a family now for you, right? Sometimes members come into our life, like this baby doll. He's doing the best he could, the Sarge, trying to have a moment. Lightening the load of preconceived expectations. Whew, that's a big one. Oh, thank you, CJ. Yeah, isn't that beautiful? We're a human family. We're a spiritual family. Our ancestry, all of us, goes back a long, long way. I remember for certain the first time that I saw Janet there in Wales. I thought to myself, oh my goodness, how long I've known this woman. and Carla Jo and Lady Hawk and Sonia and Nikki, everybody. How long I've known this woman, how long my soul has known this man. Traveling lightly is so efficient when our soul is traveling and growing. Traveling lightly helps our soul to soar, unburdened. With that, everybody, thank you for being here with me this morning. Thank you for shining the way that you do here on the earth plane. Thank you for being you. And get out there and shine, because the world needs you. Blessings be, everybody. Sandy Herrick and I will be live tonight at 8 o'clock here back on Spreaker. We're resurrecting, so to speak, looking deeper. And tonight it's about revelations. What has been revealed. And I think it's going to be a good one. With that, everybody, have a brilliant, beautiful day.